Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Rapid Fire Friday. My name is Annette Conrad, and I'm the owner and lead creative for Edible Impressions. And I welcome you to the community if you are new. So welcome to those new community members. I'm here representing the Facebook group, Cookie Decorating Hobby to Business 101. So I'm really excited to share with you another episode of Rapid Fire Friday. So if you're not familiar with what these are, I take about maybe 10-15 minutes on Friday mornings to talk about questions, wonderments, suggestions, scenarios that come up from the past week in rapid fire format. So I encourage you to go to the events section and go back into the archives of the events section and watch some of the past episodes. I try to mix them up. Sometimes there's a little bit of overlap, but if there's a little overlap on a topic, I typically bring it in from another perspective. So it can be anywhere from decorating to business advice or tips. Really, it's open to just about everything and anything. And so it's really fun, but please understand that it's coming from my perspective, from my personal journey, my exposure to other cookie decorators and cake decorators, small handmade crafts. Certainly I have interaction with my clients. And so there are lots of really interesting conversations going on. And so I always like to bring that to you in a rapid fire format. So thank you again for all of your participation in the Facebook group. I'm just delighted to see that it is continuing to grow. We are nearing 3,500 members, and it just warms my heart. And the engagement has been fantastic. So continue to bring your questions to the table. There are so many talented cookie decorators and artists, and there are folks that are beginning, there are folks that are in intermediate, and there are certainly folks that are more advanced. But don't be intimidated and don't be worried if you feel like right now you don't have anything to share, but you just have questions, and that's okay. So we're here to help each other. And so I do really appreciate all of the engagement. So keep those questions and scenarios coming. Now, today's rapid fire format, just a little bit different. I'm going to talk about 5 things, but today we're going to focus a little bit on some of the worries that you all have. What I do is when I welcome folks into the private Facebook group, I ask a couple of questions. So many of you have, of course, answered those questions. And one of the questions is, what is stopping you from taking that leap from your hobby to either a side business or side gig to bring in some extra cash flow, or making that ultimate leap to making it your livelihood and into business? And many of you will say that you're afraid to leave your full-time job. You're afraid that you won't succeed. You're afraid that you'll make mistakes, afraid that you may not find clients. So really, or you're afraid that your cookies aren't going to be perfect and that other people do it better. So there's a lot of worry out there. And I'm just here to reassure you that yes, you're going to have worry. And I think that worry never goes away. And for as long as I've been in business, and I don't want this to scare you, but there are things that I still worry about. But I think what you need to do is do your research, learn as much as you can, understand that you will not ever have all the information, and you're going to be continuously learning to that. You're going to have a little bit more pleasant experience. But where I'm going with this is that, let's think about where you are and think about where you want to go. So are you a hobbyist looking to create a side gig just to bring in some extra cash flow or to pay for your hobby, let's say? Or are you a hobbyist looking to make that leap to business? Or one more scenario, you have a side gig, you see the opportunity, you've got some steady income coming in, and now you want to maybe leave your part-time job or full-time job and dive in. So there are a lot of people at different points of their journey and have different goals. So you really need to figure out what is your ultimate goal. And what I want to do is I want to bring a really wonderful resource to you for those that are looking to take their hobby to become a little bit more legitimate in the sense of following the cottage food laws. And so I want to introduce you to one of our members, and I don't even think he knows I'm doing this, but I don't think he's going to have a problem with it because I had the opportunity to recently be on his podcast. His name is David Crabbill, and he is a community member. Perhaps he's watching, or maybe we'll be watching the replay. So do say hello to him. And my point here is, again, do your research, learn as much as you can. And so how I met David was there was a question that came to my attention, and I am a little familiar, I think pretty familiar with all of the cottage food laws, but of course they're different state to state to state. So I was looking into it a little bit for one of our community members and literally stumbled into David's website, and he specializes in the cottage food laws. And so I really encourage you to go to the forager.com website. Now put that in the feed when I conclude here. But long story short, his site was very informative. That is his area of specialty. He is a home baker, if you will. He makes sweet treats, and also has an incredible background with web design, so on the technology side. And so now he offers his website full of resources about specifically the food cottage laws. And he has a mini course, which I went through, which was super informative and really helpful. So I encourage you all to look into that. I introduced myself, and I was recently on his podcast. So he also has a podcast. So we talked about how to scale a food business. So I really encourage you. This is a wonderful resource, again, for you to ease your mind, to maybe, reduce, maybe not eliminate, but reduce a little bit of that worry and doubt that you might have. The more information you have, the more you feel sure about where you're going and what steps to take, you're going to feel better about it, and you're not going to see it as such a big risk. Okay. So hopefully that is like the message of the day is you're going to have worry. You're going to have doubt. It just comes with the nature of being an entrepreneur. That never goes away. You're always going to think about, okay, what's next? How do I keep up? But again, as you guys know, if you know me, I'm all about systems, workflow, having all the information, not getting shiny object syndrome and getting distracted, staying in your lane, all those things. But again, there's some wonderful resources out there. And I tell you that I'm so glad that I met David, and I'm so glad I had an opportunity. So please listen to episode 71. It just came out this week. And go back and listen to his other episodes. He has an amazing group of home bakers, different artists that come on that talk about their journeys, and it's really, really informative. So just want to kind of let you know about that find that I found not too long ago. So really helping him out, try to get him some exposure because he's got some great information on his site. He has a blog that talks about the laws, the business, and marketing. He also talks about the food cottage bills. So he does a recap each year. So he's got the 2021 up there. And then what's really cool is on his website, and he works really hard to do this research, is you can search by state. So you can go right to that state and see all of the information that you might need about following those food cottage laws. So really, really excellent source. And I'm just going to ring the bell because I have one more thing that I want to share today with you, and that is keeping it on the theme of 5 questions, wonderments, or scenarios. I want to just really quickly rattle off some of my recommended reads. So many of you know I love to read. I listen to podcasts. I'm just a sponge, and I love to soak up as much information as I can so that I can certainly bring it back to you. During my last masterclass, somebody had asked me, well, how do you know to do all this stuff like social media, and how do you know to make your website and update your website? And I tell you, I learn and I learn and I learn. I watch, I listen. It's also trial and error. I get my hands dirty. I get in there. And much like I mentioned last week, is you've got to just get in there and start trying things. You can watch a million videos on, let's say, cookie decorating, but until you get in there, until you start mixing that frosting, until you start practicing with those piping bags, your skill is not going to fine tune unless you actually do it yourself. So please, take that with a grain of salt. But, so anyway, so I'm going to talk about just really quickly 5 books, and I have lots of books, but these are the 5 that I kind of pulled off my shelf today that I really do encourage. And I'll put these in the feed as well. So not in any particular order, but I really like this quick paperback read by Jake Kelfer. And so it's called Elevate Your Network. It's a really good fast read. And it just talks about what are the things that you can do that will elevate your network, exactly like the cover says. So it's making connections, it's reaching out to people, it's staying connected with people, and really, really easy strategies, a very fast read. But actually, I've read this book more than once because it is such a good reminder. You know, we all get caught up in the day-to-day, but a quick reminder on how you can quickly elevate your network. And they're simple things. They're very simple things. So that's a really good one. Okay, so then the next one, maybe I'll just ring the bell after each book just because, you know, I love that bell. And good morning to everyone. Thank you so much for joining me, Jennifer and Sandra and Kim. Thank you very much. And thank you for all those watching the replay. I really do appreciate your time. I know Friday mornings can be very busy, so that's why I love that you can come back at your leisure and watch these replays at your convenience. Okay, the next one is, I've mentioned this book before, but Never Lose a Customer Again is a fantastic book. And I am not even halfway through this book because this is a workbook. It's by Joey Coleman, and I am actually going chapter by chapter by chapter. And it is a phenomenal book because it talks about your customer journey, and it puts your customers, of course, top of mind in every phase that your customer goes through, from the introduction of your product to when they're thinking about purchasing to after they've purchased, and then what happens after. So really, really good. Just when I thought that, oh, I've got pretty good service and I'm responsive, and I literally got to chapter 3 and I'm like, oh, there are many things that I can do to, again, excel, exceed my customers' expectations. So this book is like a workbook. It's not a book that you're gonna think that you're just gonna read through in an afternoon. I would not encourage you to do that. There's so many golden nuggets in this book. So that's a really good one. Okay, so another one, hello, good morning, is, okay, not to, share how old I am, but this is Susie Orman book was actually recommended by a friend, and this is the ultimate retirement guide for 50 or plus. You know what? I'm proud to say that I'm 55. Yes, 55. You heard it right. And, but this is a really, really good book. Just some common sense on how to manage your money. So Susie Orman, she also has a podcast, and I wish I had more time to listen to all of her incredible advice, logical, really just really good information. She's just, an icon in the financial world. So she really just gives you a lot of really good strategies on, okay, you're bringing in this money, but how do you save for the long term? Good book. So you don't have to be 50 to read it either. All right. Moving on. So we got another book, and I know I've mentioned this many times before. In fact, out of all these books that I'm talking about today, this should be your first book for those that are looking for their hobby to business or hobby to side gig, whatever it is. If you are thinking about pushing that to more of a business where you're going to have transaction with your clients, Profit First is an excellent book by Mike Michalowicz, and it's a really, really good. You can see, look, all my Post-it notes. So when I go through books and I read them, I always flag like the really important concepts in the book that I want to remember. But this one really is great. Again, common sense, very strategic, and okay, how do you organize yourself as a business? The number one thing you should do is create a separate checking account or business account, bank account for your business. You've got to separate your personal from your business. And then he goes in very much depth about, okay, what do you do? What percentage of money do you put in the various accounts? So whether it's your tax account, profit account, payroll account, all of those various, what is the percentage? So it takes away a little bit of the guesswork, but really, really, really good book. And there are so many entrepreneurs that have read this book, and so many established influencer podcasters that will, in the business realm, that mention this book time and time again. I heard it so many times, I'm like, enough is enough. I need to go get that book and read it. And I've read it a couple times. So good reminders. All right, I got one more to share with you, and that is Atomic Habits. Another gem, and this one is perfect for today's topic because you can feel sometimes overwhelmed with all of the things that you have to do. I know I've been doing a 3-part series on resources and technology, and I realized that there was so much information for that area that I actually split it into 3 series, so, or 3 episodes. So administration, just this last Wednesday I talked about marketing, and then October 5th, I'm going to be bringing it all together with fulfillment. So in my brain, that's kind of how I figured out where I can put those resources. And there's a little bit of overlap, but I come from a different perspective on those various topics. So I bring up James Clear, Atomic Habits, because again, it's a wonderful strategy to tackle those big goals, okay? Those big goals of where you want to be, whether it be 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, 5 years from now, whatever it may be, but he breaks it down and he says small bites, atomic, tiny little steps, tiny little tasks that will eventually equate to big results and big goals. So really, really good book. And I don't, please don't go out to the bookstore and buy all these books all at once. Set yourself a plan, set yourself a goal, and try to just consume one at a time, one at a time. And there are so many books that are on my wish list, but until I get through the 1 or 2 that I'm working through, I will not go on to another book. My goal is to take action, some kind of action with every podcast, with every book, with everything that I touch where I'm learning a concept of some sort, is I want to take action. It could be a very tiny, tiny action, but don't just listen and consume. Don't just get that all in your brain, but not do anything with it. So that would be my thought of the day, is to don't worry, or don't worry as much. And you can do this, I promise you, if you just information gather. Again, I always say stay in your lane, don't spread yourself too thin, and just take the time to figure out, really ultimately, what is your why? And your why can definitely push you to that next level, and then that next level, and that next level. So I wish you all a great weekend. I hope you enjoyed this Rapid Fire Friday. Just to let you know what's coming up next Wednesday, we have now a decorating. As you know, we flip-flop every Wednesday. It flips from decorating technique or techniques to business. And this week, I'm excited about a wet-on-wet technique. So wet-on-wet designs, if you don't know what that is, essentially it is using a loose frosting consistency to make these beautiful designs. And I'm all about quality here, and my team is all about quality, but we're also about speed because we do high volume. And for you, moving from hobby to business owner, you're going to have to figure out how to increase the speed on those cookie designs in order to bring more money and bring profit to your business. So I'm excited to show you how you can create beautiful designs with not a lot of time, okay? So that's gonna be great. And then finally, October 5th, as I mentioned, I'm going to be talking about fulfillment, resources, and technology. So I encourage you don't have to go back and watch part 1 and part 2, but it is nice to kind of see them all come together. So, all right, folks, I did it. 18 minutes, that's not too bad. So thank you very much for your attention. I welcome you to go deeper. I will post these books in the feed. Maybe I'll create a guide for it in the Facebook group. And then as always, I welcome you to go to AnnetteConrad.com. I do have a couple of freebies on there as well if you'd like to learn a little bit more about my journey as well. So thank you, everybody. And we will see you on Wednesday. Take care.